Okay, well, now, you got some habits you want to change. Here's the first step. Commit to change. Promise you will change. Promise yourself, I will change that habit. I promise. I will eat slowly and consciously, I promise. I will not watch so much television, I promise. I will be more joyful and happy and lighthearted. You can count on me. Now, though, some of you are thinking, whoa, wait a minute. This is like a New Year's resolution. I promise and I won't fulfill. Well, that's true. It would be a New Year's resolution if we didn't have steps 2, 3, and 4. But we got a 4-step program here. Now, I know you want to know the second step because you don't like the first one. But the second step won't work without the first one. The first step is, I promise I will change. I promise. You can count on me. We're right at the top of the ladder. Of that ladder of powerful speaking, we're at the top. So don't change too many habits at once. 3, 4, 5, who knows? But don't get overloaded, because the first thing you're doing is making a solemn promise you'll change. You say, well, I don't know, though. What if I promise and I fail? Huh. So? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. You can fail. No, but I don't give my word. I don't give my word unless I can keep it. Well, that's too bad. Really? Because I think if you only give your word when you can keep it, you're not practicing giving your word. I mean, a lot of people are real proud of themselves. They say, well, I'm a man of integrity because I never break my word. Well, I think that's then a proof that you don't give your word enough. That you give your word too small, too infrequently. To really be a person of integrity is to give your word a lot and big and fulfill on it most of the time. But the only way you'll know if you're giving it enough is if once in a while you fail. Well, here's the second step now, for those of you who are still with me. The second step is to set up a feedback system, to monitor your progress, to keep track of how you're doing in this promise that you've made. Some kind of a way that you can track your results. So, for example, it might be a journal, where every day, Kim, you could write down how well you're doing at eating consciously and slowly. And the purpose for writing that down, maybe every day or even at every meal, but maybe at your dinner table where you're eating, so it's always at home, is that it will start you to focus on your commitment, remind you of your commitment, and then you can start to track to see how you're doing. Latrice, you want to watch less television? You start a chart. Maybe just a chart that looks like this. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, day 8. This is time, and this is some number. Like in this case, it might be the number of hours that you're watching television. So the first day you might notice that you watch that much. Second day you watch that much. Third day you watch this much. Fourth day you watch this much. So what you're doing is you're tracking, and in your case, because you're wanting to decrease the habit, you want this chart to go down, because that's the change that you want to see. So you could set up a chart, you could set up a journal, you could buy a calendar and give yourself a grade every day. You could say, how am I doing at being irritated? Well, if you're not irritated at all, you can give yourself an A. If you're irritated a little, you can give yourself a B. If you're irritated as much as you usually were, you give yourself a C. If you're irritated more than you used to be irritated, you give yourself a D. I don't know how you do it. Somehow you set up a monitoring system. Let me give you a couple of more practical examples that I did. I wanted to fasten my seatbelt every time I got in a car. Every time, not just 90% of the time. So I promised to do it, and then I set up a monitoring system. What I did was I got my daughters involved. This was several years ago when they lived at home. Actually, just one daughter. And I told her that every time she caught me without my seatbelt, I'd give her a quarter. She thought this was fun. So, we'd be driving and she'd say, seatbelt. I'd give her a quarter, And pretty soon, I had to put little tick marks on a piece of paper and pay her at the end of the month. At the end of the week, actually. It didn't take me a month, but it took me a while. And she got clever. One time she came out to say goodbye to me when I left for work, because she realized that every time I drove out of the garage, I would fasten my seatbelt after I got out. So sometimes you can get others involved. I had another habit, which was I used to walk more like a chicken than a person. Like this, my head out in front of my body. I didn't like bob it like that, but sometimes I did. And now my mother said, it's genetic. It's not a habit, it's a genetic thing. Your grandfather did it. He did it because he was in a hurry and he wanted his face to get there before his body. So I was kind of proud of it. But in fact, my sister, who's a physical therapist, said, Dave, that's not such a good idea. It's better if you walk more like a person, because then your spine's straight, you know, you won't develop problems, and yeah, just give it a shot. So I promised. And then I got other people involved. One of them was my wife, and another one was some people at work. And I asked them that every time they noticed me kind of going like this, they would just say posture. And then I would know, stand up like this. Hey, I can do that. So you set up a monitoring system, a chart, a journal, a calendar, a grade. I told you earlier that I wanted to improve my mood, so I give myself a score from -10 to +10. It's just a change of habit, and you monitor. Now, be a little careful here if you get other people involved, because sometimes you can get angry at the feedback. I remember one time I was walking along with Tricia. I was walking along, we were talking, and she said, posture. And I got so angry inside. I'd ask her to do it. I don't know. All she said was posture. She's just doing what I asked for, but I was so mad, so I did this. Okay, so the next step in this system is to practice, because habits take a while to change. And practice some more, and then practice some more. Now people say, well, how long does it take to change a habit? Well, it depends on the habit. There's no formula here. Some habits take just a few minutes, like my fingernail biting. I tried everything until I tried this. I painted my fingernails with that stuff, and I still bit them, and it just didn't taste good. I even put tape across them like that. I still worked on them. I just looked like Michael Jackson. It's just, I tried everything, but it didn't work. So finally I promised. And then I set up a monitoring system. I put a little tick mark in my calendar at work every time I noticed I was biting my fingernails. So I'd notice that the tick mark should decrease. Well, I just practiced for about an hour. I was so tired of putting tick marks in my calendar, it was so interrupting my workflow that I stopped, and I never did it again. That's amazing. That fast. But not all habits. That seatbelt one, well, that took a lot of practice, about $37.50 worth. That posture habit, that's really a lot of improvement after 6 months. And still, once in a while, you'll notice, I'll just kind of fall into that. But the point is to practice without reproach. What's reproach? Reproach is that thing where you go and kick yourself every time you make a mistake. No, let that go. You just practice and practice and practice. Be gentle upon yourself. Why be gentle on yourself? It's because otherwise you will quit practicing. If you're practicing and every time you make a mistake you hit yourself, pretty soon you will hurt and you'll quit practicing.